All right, so you want to quit you want to quit a job, all right? Now quitting a job is easy. If you live in America or in most countries, working a job is something that's easy to do. You can work, you can jump off the job train, you can go get a new job, and then you can work. But then what I found is that the same things happen. So either you didn't like the boss or you want to go hang out with friends and you can't hang out with friends because you got to wake up early in the morning. You want to get a raise, but you really can't get a raise because you got to wait until next year on March where the company does raises. So there's all these reasons that people want, and it's easy to keep getting back on the job train, quitting a job and moving on to the next. So I want to talk about what I did over the last 10 years. I've quit two jobs. One job I quit well, but I didn't start the new thing well. I started a new company and it lasted for about 2 months before I had to get back on the job train. The second time I did it, I actually started a company just like I did before in the same marketing industry, but this time I did certain things very well. I quit well, but I was actually prepared to actually grow a company. And that's what I want to talk about is like actually how do you quit? How do you pivot out of a job? So there's four things I think that are extremely important for you to do that, and I'm about to go over that right now. All right, if you're looking to quit your job, like I said, there's four things you need to do. The first thing you need is a strategy. The second thing you need is to develop skills and ability. The third thing you need is to develop time. You need to give yourself time so that you can actually do the right preparation. And then the fourth thing you need is an escape route. You got to James Bond this thing. You can't just jump out there and not be ready, but you actually have to be a spy and know where you're going to go and how you're going to do it. So let's go through each one of these one by one, and I want to give you some stories and how I did it and what made it work. So first, let's talk about having a strategy. Now, whenever I was wanting to quit a job, I'll put this picture right here. This is the picture of me when I wanted to quit a job. I remember I was working full time, so I had my regular 9 to 5 job, and then I had clients on the side. So I was doing my little marketing website kind of thing, and I really didn't know much about business, but I was making anywhere from an extra $1,500 to $3,000 a month doing my part time side gig, and I would wake up, help with the kids, get the kids ready for the day, do whatever thing around the house. Then I'd get ready for work. I'd drive 15 minutes to work, and then I'd get to work, I'd work, and then I would hang out with folks during my lunch hour, and then I'd work, and then I would drive another 15 to 20 minutes home. Then I'd come home, and then I'd do dinner, hang out with the kids, get the daughter down to for the night. And then after that, have a little bit of time with my spouse. And then the next thing you know, I have to actually start doing client work. So let me put this back. This is the picture again. I just remember one night I felt like this isn't going to work. Like I felt stuck. I felt like if I have to keep doing this, I'm driving roughly 40 minutes a day. I'm in my car. I'm coming home. I'm making enough money to actually help pay off some debt that we had. I had college loans. I think we had just bought a new car at the time. And I was also the only one working. So we were paying off a house. And the side job was good. I wanted it to be my main job. But I was really struggling with the idea of business, how to get new clients, how to grow the business. And most of my day was focused on driving to and from work and also just working in a job that I actually liked. And it was a great environment, great staff, but it just didn't work because I didn't like how I felt at the end of the night. I was like, I'm working for clients, making this much. I'd rather just be doing this to the day. So I had to start developing a strategy. The first thing that I could change is what I did to and from work. This is what I could start doing is I started working on my mindset. I started working on understanding that entrepreneurs, they work for free. Like there's a lot of people that I want to work with and they're like, hey, how much would you pay me to do this thing? I'm like, you're learning. You need to come in and get some skills and learn what you can for free, show your value, then I'll pay you. So I started listening to podcasts and just learning stuff like that. The entrepreneurs worked for free, employees got paid. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I started thinking like that, there were things that I needed to do to grow my business and to grow myself that had to be an investment to where I'm hoping over time I would get paid. So what I started doing is I called it Mobile University. On the way to work, I would start listening to podcasts. On my lunch break, I would take my computer and I would go to the coffee shop and I would work on client work on my lunch break. And so I started finding times during the day to where I could actually start developing myself, and I started creating a strategy. My initial strategy was to actually move up in the company. That was the goal, is just to move up in the company that I was in, keep the side gig thing. But as I started working on my mindset and working up in the company, in about 2 years, I had hit the top. One of my actual managers told me, he said, "You're too ambitious for this place." And I remember other employees would say things like, a lot of it was behind my back because I was getting to the point to where I wanted more. I knew that I wasn't just happy with where I was, but I wanted more. And people would start saying things, "Oh, he's only out for himself," or he's usurping. A guy actually said that he's usurping the boss's authority, where the boss loved me. But I could just remember that. So one thing to also keep in mind is that when you're looking for more in your life, or you're potentially wanting to quit, your boss, your employers, or even people that you know close to you might look at you as you're stepping out of line, and they might try to push you back into line. And that's a big part of developing the strategy, is developing the mindset that people are not going to like you wanting more or pursuing more. But in the act of doing that, it's getting you ready for that business you're going to create. It's getting you ready for that new position where you're building up this toughness. You're building up this ability to work with things like that. So as you start developing a strategy and having a vision for what you want, not just to quit the job, not just to make more money, but to be stuck, to be free. Like if you're in a position and you can't bargain because you got to wait another year, that's like what we call slaves. Like slaves can't bargain. Like they just had to do what they were told. But you are free, and if you're free, you should have that ability. And part of that is actually understanding that you need a strategy to move towards something so that you don't have to stay stuck forever. So that kind of gets us into the next thing, is developing these skills and abilities. It's not just about mindset. It's about understanding what skills and abilities that you actually need to start creating. So when I was talking about my skills and ability, I started listening to podcasts. So every single day I have 40 minutes a day where I'm in a car and I'm listening to a podcast. On the way, I started listening to this guy. It was a recommendation from a friend, Pat Flynn. And I remember I listened to his first episode, and he was so timid. He was like, "Hi, I'm Pat Flynn, and thanks for listening. I'm trying to grow." And I'm like, "Who is this guy? Why did they recommend this guy to me?" And then I went and listened to his 100th episode, and he was like, "This is Pat Flynn, the episode." Like he just went from this timid guy to episode 100, where he's beatboxing and big intro, and it's like this guy is improved. And I think it's the same for you, is that if you're looking to pivot from a 9 to 5 or move to another company, you have to develop some skills you don't have right now. And that means you have to start listening, you have to start learning, you have to get a coach, you have to go take some free courses online, get on lynda.com through your local library. You have to start reading books. You have to start developing so that you can actually do that next thing that you wanted. Because I wanted to be a business owner, there were skills that I needed to learn about how to save money. So I started doing it personally. I, canceled a few subscriptions I had. I stopped buying, new things. I kept my cars for longer. I started learning about expenditures. I started learning how to save and how to buy things that I needed. So there was all these skills and abilities that I had to learn, and I started learning them while I was in a job. Not like, that was the problem I did the first time, is the first time I quit is I quit well. I, put in the 2 weeks notice and I did everything right, but I wasn't prepared because I didn't have a strategy. I didn't learn any new skills or abilities. I was just making $1,500 to $3,000 a month, and I thought, oh, that was enough money for me to actually quit, and I could keep doing the same thing. But I had a lot to learn. So the second time I did it, actually, I started learning more. I started learning more of how to actually run a business, how to get clients. I got a coach. I started learning, and that's what you have to do. So if you're looking to quit a job, don't just quit because you have this passion and you've found your purpose and you're ready to jump out there, because the statistics are real. Most new businesses are going to close, and they're closing not because people aren't good at what they do. There's a lot of people, they're great. They're like fantastic at what they do, but they don't know how to get new clients. They don't know how to network. They don't know how to run their business. They don't know how to create processes and procedures to make sure that when they fulfill the work, that it's done at a rate to where they're making a profit. All these things happen in business, so don't just rush out there to do it. It's a big risk. And a lot of people are like, just go out there, just go hustle, just go do the work. It's like, yeah, you have to hustle, but at the same rate, this is a risk. And if you have responsibilities, if you have a kid, if you have a mortgage, if you have a spouse, if you have things you need to pay for, you need to, have a plan. You need to develop. You need to grow these skills and abilities. Don't just take it as a risk and you could just get out there and do it. I'm going to say that to you, but I'm also saying it knowing that, one, you've developed a strategy and you're working on your skills and abilities. But if you have no strategy and you're just jumping out there and you're like, I'm about to hustle and do this. No, don't do that. Get a strategy, start working on your skills, get some new abilities so that you know that when you actually jump, when you escape the 9 to 5, that you're going to be ready. All right. So number 3 is that you have to give yourself time. Now, here's what I mean by that is if you're growing a business that's around your brand, so you're trying to be a coach or you're trying to be a speaker, it's a little bit easier if you're doing services because it's always easy to find someone that, needs a website or needs social media or they need a professional service. That's a little bit easier. But if you're growing it around your personal brand, you need to give yourself time. Even if you're doing a professional service business, you need to give yourself time. I say give yourself at least 6 to 12 months to plan the strategy, improve your skills, start making it a process so that when you know that if you're making $5,000 a month, you cut out Netflix, maybe you sell your car, maybe you sell your car and you get a cheap car that's paid for. Maybe you stop eating out 5 days a week and you make a big, bowl of chili at the beginning of the week and you do that. So you have this strategy that you're working and you've reduced your income to where you can actually live off a certain number. Then it's actually enough time to do it, right? Maybe pay off that lowest loan that you got. Maybe pay off that credit card. You need to give yourself time so that there's not this stress. It's stress enough running a business. It's stress enough quitting a job. That's why the government gives us tax breaks, right? When we change, when there's change in our life, the government's like, oh, you bought a new house, tax break. Oh, you had a kid, tax break. Oh, you moved to a new state or you moved somewhere else, tax break. Like we get these you got married, tax break. Because change is hard. Change is stressful because we don't know what's coming. So the best way to do it is to give yourself time, make that plan, develop those skills and abilities, and then try to jump 6 months later. Try to jump 12 months later. And for some of you, it might even, like if you have kids, I have 2 kids, I have a wife. I don't have any debt, so I'm good. I'm good right now. But there's responsibilities that you have. And if you've taken those responsibilities, whether you like them or not, it's a responsibility. And you have to make sure that as you jump out, that you're doing it more for like a deeper reason than just like I'm mad at employees or something. So I think one of the best ways to know that you're ready is that you're doing it for meaning. I quit both times because I felt like I wasn't giving the meaning to my life that I wanted. Here's what I mean by that is I looked at myself and I said, if I'm in this job for another 5 years, I feel like I would have wasted 5 years. So I would rather leave this job because I'm prepared and figure out what happens than to actually stay here for another 5 years. That's how I felt. So I was more looking for meaning at what I could do, what I could be. And I think when you get to that level, quitting is a lot more. You'll make the sacrifices, you'll do the things. So give yourself time. All right. And the last one is the escape. You gotta have an escape route. A lot of people just get out there and they just jump. So like I said, the first time I quit, it was actually a month's notice for the type of job I gave him a month's notice. I went to my wife and I said, hey, I want to quit. I love the work that I'm doing. I love the group of people I work with, but I just don't make enough money. And it was like a set schedule of how much I got paid every year. And I said, I don't make enough money. I don't feel like I'm getting all the impact that I would love to give. So I said, I want to quit. She goes, go for it. And I was like, all right. So the next day I came in, I gave a month's notice and I was out. And I was out free. I had no wings. Like I'm up here jumping off off a cliff, and I wasn't ready. I was not ready, but I went ahead and jumped. And I was lucky that I found someone that actually allowed me to do websites for them, and it ended up turning into a job over time. So that first business lasted 2 months because I had no processes. I was really good at what I did, but I didn't know how to make that a business, and that was a huge problem. So the second time I did it, I was ready. I had a process for getting clients. I had a process for fulfilling the work. I had a process for making sure that I was consistently networking. We had enough money saved up so that if I didn't get clients for the first 6 months, we were going to be good. And here's the kicker. Because of the way I quit, the company I worked for became my first client that was like one of the largest retainers I ever had. So because of the way I quit, I was ready. I had proven my value to the company. I was consistently helping out. That when I went in to quit, I actually gave my offer and said, hey, but how about this? How about we work together in a partnership where I do this work for you and I help you guys kind of ease it over the next, few months. And it actually lasting, I think it was probably for around 2 years, because I quit well. I had an escape plan. I wasn't upset. I wasn't frustrated. I knew that I was leaving to actually go create more meaning in my life, more impact for business owners to help them grow their business. So when I was ready to leave, I was able to have that in my pitch. So my 2 weeks notice was actually a sales pitch to be a client of mine. And I think that's important as you start growing your business. I also think it's important to understand that as you're trying to jump on this escape route, because we don't want to just have a lot of risk, a business itself is a risk, is that you want to build in this ability in your escape route to where you can bargain with your boss. You've built up enough kind of networking with people there that they love you. As you look at your reviews each year or each month or whatever process you're on, they know that you're bringing value, and it gives you that ability to actually bargain with your boss. But it also allows you to step out on good terms so that you can use it as a recommendation. You can use them as part of your portfolio. And for everyone watching this, maybe you're not going to be a entrepreneur. You might be an intrapreneur. If you are building rockets, you're not going to go out and start your own company. But I think the same process works, is that if you are in a field or an industry to where you want more, you still have to have a strategy. You got to plan what you want. You have to work towards what you want. You have to develop skills and abilities. And then you have to make sure you're giving yourself the right time so you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. And then 4, make sure that you have an escape route so that when you get out, you can start building on something that you've already planned on, and you're not trying to figure everything out at once, because growing a business is one of the best things I've ever done. It's I would say it is the best career business decision I've ever made. But at the same time, it's a lot of risk and it's a lot of work. So don't do it without understanding that you have a safe path to get to where you want to go. All right. Thank you for watching this video. I would love to know if you're quitting a job, maybe put it below after you've already let your company know. Who knows, they might check your comments. But if there's any way that I can help, I'd love for you to go ahead and put it in the comments. And if I can, I will reply and let you know my thoughts on it. Until next time, enjoy your day, enjoy your week, enjoy your year, and just keep pushing.